My name's Debbie Landry. I'm the Executive Director of Homeschool Alabama, and I'm glad that you found us here on the internet today. For 30 years, I was the administrator of Crossroads Christian School in Moody, Alabama. Over 900 students, including my 3 children, graduated from Crossroads in that time. So I do have some experience in seeing homeschoolers graduate from high school. My husband Ron and I have been married for 44 years. Our 3 children are all homeschool graduates. 5 of our 6 grandchildren are being homeschooled. I'm not sure what the 1-year-old's going to do yet, but I think there's still plenty of time to make that decision. But most of what I know I have learned along the way. It's not something I knew when we started. I had attended 1 weekend workshop when I started homeschooling. That was it. But before I get to the nuts and bolts of homeschooling through high school, I want to address just a few common questions. One that I hear from parents, even if their child's just going to be first grade, is, can they get into college if they homeschool? Yes, they can. Many colleges welcome homeschoolers now, but you have to do your job as a parent to make sure that you provide them with solid academics, and then if you're looking for scholarships, test scores count. Another question is, what about accreditation? Usually that's an issue that's related to the college question, but it's not really something that college are worried about. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But really, accreditation is only an issue if you're going to re-enter the public school. Another question is, what if I, as a parent, don't have a good education? In my 30 years of watching homeschool graduates walk across the stage to receive diplomas, many of those parents have only had a high school diploma. But motivated by the love for their children and a desire to do good for them, they sacrifice time and money to use the best materials and the resources they could find and afford to teach their children. Faithfulness and perseverance are more important characteristics for successful homeschooling than the education level of the parents. I'll tell you when I learned this too. We had a young lady who graduated from Crossroads. She was a smart young thing, but she didn't have great test scores. Her parents were not rich. They did the best they could with what they had. And she was the first one to graduate. So I saw her test scores, or she was the first to graduate in her family. And so I saw her test scores, and they weren't extraordinary. So when she went to the community college that she went to, she called me up one day, or I saw her somewhere, and she says, "Miss Landry, guess what? They had asked her to tutor in the math center at this local community college." And I was sort of surprised. I don't know if I showed my shock to her or not, but I was very surprised. But what I realized is that she had done well with what she had been taught. And it wasn't because her parents were that smart or that wealthy or paid to have her stuff, but they were faithful to do the best they could with what they had, and they persevered in it. They kept doing the hard things. And all 3 of those kids graduated from college, went to college on scholarships, and some of them have their master's degree. So, like I said, faithfulness and perseverance are more important characteristics for successful home education. But then what if you have difficult circumstances? Life happens. You may have chronic illness. You may have chronic illness of a spouse or a child. What if your spouse dies? What if you encounter financial hardship, which happens all the time? I'm going to tell you 2 stories of families that this happened to, and they kept persevering in spite of those difficulties. The first one was a family that had two children. They were twins, a girl and a boy. The boy was severely dyslexic, and they came to homeschooling probably in 4th or 5th grade. And when they came, the mother was the sole financial support of the family. The dad had retired on disability, and they had an elderly relative who lived with them, I think a father. As the years, and they kept going, they kept homeschooling, but as the years passed, her health declined to the point where she had to retire on disability. They encountered financial hardships because of this. When those students graduated from high school, the family was living in an RV in an RV park, and they were caring for 2 mentally challenged adult siblings who lived in a next door RV to them. That's the way they finished their homeschooling journey. And when that young man got up and he gave testimony to his mother's perseverance, and faithfulness in his speech at graduation. And there were not dry eyes in the house because I knew what they had gone through. And the children are successful nowadays. I follow them on Facebook. So even in spite of health circumstances, financial circumstances, they did it, and so can you. The other story, and I still get tears in my eyes when I hear this one too. The mother homeschooled, they had 6 children, and the mother was a faithful homeschool mom, and then her husband died suddenly, unexpectedly, and she was a widow. She kept homeschooling. You know, they were not rich to start with, so, but she kept homeschooling, and come to find out, she not only kept homeschooling, she went back to school herself and got a nursing degree. So when her 6th child graduated from Crossroads, they asked if they could get up and talk. All 6 of the kids came forward and they talked. The youngest one gave tribute to their mother for the hard work she had done and the faithfulness she had displayed for them to graduate from high school. And all of them are doing well too. So yes, difficult circumstances are going to help. They just are. They come to us and you either respond or you don't. But you can still homeschool in spite of difficult circumstances. Today, it seems like there's so many choices, there's so many resources, homeschoolers are easily overwhelmed. If you're a Christian, I encourage you to pray and ask God for wisdom, because you don't even know what to choose. Every year when we started homeschooling, I would pray, do we want to go one more year? And we'd say yes. Like we started when our oldest one was in 3rd grade, and by the time he was in 9th grade, that was the last time we did it. We said, forget it, we're just going to finish all the way. So all 3 of our children graduated from homeschooling. Our youngest one went all 13 years. When he was in kindergarten, we started, and he graduated from homeschooling. So what we did is we just focused on what seems to be a good course for each of those students and stay on it. And it's different from each one, but faithfulness and perseverance are more important than education level of the parents. So don't worry about your education level. Homeschooling is your job. Act like it. Dismiss or minimize other distractions from your life. Keep to a schedule. Put away your email, your phone, your social media, whatever it is, just to specific times. Let your children know that their education is your priority. Get up, put on clothes every morning. Makeup can be optional, but at least put on clothes. Get your house in order and start school every day. And if your weekly schedule is busy, you may have to take some things out of it. Dismiss some of the busyness from your life. And high school is important. It may be your last chance to impact your children. Don't squander that time. By the time they're 17 or 18, they're ready to be launched into their adults' lives, and you can do it. But it's hard work. It requires attention from you and from your students. I've seen over 900 students graduate from Crossroads, so I know it can be done. At this time, I'm going to go to a handout that should be available on this website somewhere else. So hopefully you have printed that out, and we're going to be covering that handout at this time. At this point, we're going to go over the handout. Make sure you've downloaded the handout. The link is right below this video, so you can follow along as we go through it. Every child is different. God has a plan for your children's life, even your struggling learner. But one of the things that surprises homeschool parents is that they have no idea what their child's going to do as an adult. Your child may do something totally different than you are doing, or that you have no clue what they could do. So your job as a parent is simply to give your children as broad a base of education as you can, to prepare them for whatever God has in mind when they become adults. Your goals for high school and beyond could be college, could be military. They're probably all going to get married. Most people do get married. They could choose to go into a vocation, so they may need vocational training. They also could do an apprenticeship, which if you haven't looked at that, consider that. There's a lot of good career fields that you can apprentice for. So just think big when you're planning for your students' high school education, and don't limit them by what you're not letting them do. This handout too is a big circular approach. It is not linear. I'm not going from one thing to the next to the next. I'm just talking about things that you may need to know as you are planning your students' high school education. Some of it you may not need to know, and somebody else may need to know something else. So I'm just talking about topics that may be helpful to you. The next topic is testing. And testing is a part of life, whether we want it to or not. For some homeschoolers, testing is anathema. They're like, oh, no, testing, we can't, no. Testing is simply a tool that you use to help you either plan for your child's education, to help them prepare for what they're going to do ahead. So I'm just going to talk about a few tests that are out there that they may come in contact with. Standardized achievement testing is what a child encounters in the grades as they go through school. They're graded achievement tests. The Stanford, the California, the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, the Terra Nova, all of these are graded achievement tests given by grades, like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, all the way up through 12th. When a child gets into high school, they're going to start doing college entrance test. The ACT, which is the American College Testing, SAT is the Scholastic Aptitude Test, and the CLT is the Classic Learning Test. Those are some of the three college entrance tests that a child may take. And you can start taking them as early as the 9th grade if you want to. But just realize you can improve your scores if you wait until after they've taken Algebra 2 or something like that. But then if you let them take it early, you have a way of saying, oh, we better work, that it diagnoses their weaknesses. You can tell where there's a weakness that maybe you need to work on, or if there's a strength that you can benefit from later on, then you can work on that too. College entrance test. The others is it's the PSAT NMSQT. A lot of letters right there, but that stands for Preliminary Scholastic Aptitude Test / National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. It is only given, it only counts when your student's in the 11th grade. It is a preliminary, it's a College Board product, just like the Scholastic Aptitude test is, but it's also a qualifying test for the National Merit Scholarship contest. And you don't know that a child who is very well-rounded academically and does well on tests, they could get a good score on the PSAT and get a scholarship. So I recommend that kids take this because it's fairly inexpensive as college entrance test goes, and you've got an opportunity to practice that way and get some practice in on a test. And then if they score well, then you've got a good chance of getting the National Merit Scholarship. But if you don't take it, you can't retake it. It's only given one time a year in October, and as homeschoolers, you can go to your local public school and take it if they'll let you in. Some homeschool groups are able to give it for their students, but most homeschoolers go to their local public school to take the PSAT, and it's given one time a year in October. So pay attention to that if that's a possibility. Another kind of test that's given now is AP, or the Advanced Placement Test. These tests are designed to test a student's knowledge about a certain subject. And there's a specific body of knowledge that's taught for these classes and tested. A lot of students in public high schools take AP classes. Homeschoolers tend to take online AP classes if they're interested in doing that. Or you can buy a book that covers that knowledge and teach it to yourself as history or science or English or whatever, psychology. There's a lot of AP tests. This is also administered through College Board, so you would go to that website and find out more about that. You can take the AP test with your local high schools as well. So that's where most people go to take the AP test. CLEP, College Level Equivalency Program, CLEP. Anyway, that's an old test. I took that back when I was going to college, but it's still around, and it's still an opportunity for a way for your children to take and get college level credit. I forgot to say that about the AP. The AP is, after you take the AP course, you take an AP exam, and if you score high enough, your college may give your children college credit for it. That's why you take the Advanced Placement Test, is so that you can have college credit before you get to college. CLEP is the old way of doing college credit. And it's the same thing. You have a body of knowledge, you take the test. If you score high enough, then you can get college credit when you go to college. So another test that's given by the military, but it's an excellent achievement test and aptitude test, is the ASVAB, and that stands for the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. And it's given free by college recruiters, or Army recruiters, and the Army or the military will come to a school and give the ASVAB as well. So it's just a free way of figuring out your child's aptitude. That's what we tend to use it for, because after you take the ASVAB, they have a follow-up program called the CEP, a Career Exploration Program, and they'll come in and it's a computer-based program, and they explore 400 career possibilities, and with the results of your ASVAB score, they will tell you what your student might be good at. It's a really good aptitude score. You can take aptitude tests otherwhere, but this is a free one, and it's excellent. Another kind of test that your student may encounter as they enter the adult world is the work keys. Now, this is an ACT product that's used by industry to sort of screen employees as they move, whether or not to be hired, whether or not to work in a certain field and everything. So, but it's the National Career Readiness Certificate is what you get based on a score on a work keys test. So they might be entering a job or applying for a job, and they may require them to go to the local community college and take a work keys test. So that's just another test that's out there. Okay, the next topic I'm going to talk about is dual enrollment, which is another way of getting college credit prior to actually going to college. Nowadays, it's done everywhere. Every 2 or 4 year school, it seems like, offers dual enrollment. You can do it online, you can do it on campus at the school, and it's not just academics anymore. Vocational programs are part of the dual enrollment program. So check your local community college, especially for vocational programs. If you get started early enough, you can have certificates by the time you graduate from high school, so that you can start work in patient care, EMTs, welding, cooking, culinary. I mean, you name it. Just look at the different career fields that are available through your local community college, and those can be done through a dual enrollment course. But the academics you can still do through 2 or 4 year school, so just do your own research for dual enrollment. Accreditation. I mentioned this earlier. Everybody seems to be worried about accreditation, and really the only reason you need to be concerned about it is if you think your child may re-enter the public school, especially in high school. It's trickier pulling a child out to homeschool in high school because of the credits that they have to earn toward a diploma. Every school district has their own set of requirements. It's not, the state of Alabama has their own diploma requirements, and then the local school district may add to it. So you have to be careful if you think, oh, I'm going to pull them out and teach them and put them back in their senior year. That may not work out too well. So just be very careful pulling them out. If you do homeschool and want to re-enter the accreditation, if it's from a non-accredited school, they may require them to take the semester test for all the academic subjects that you're requiring that they've taken. That's a rule, and they could have you do that. When you graduate, if you graduate from a non-accredited school, there is actually a law on the books, and in Alabama, no public 2-year or 4-year college may deny admission to a qualified student based on the fact that the student attended, graduated from, or is enrolled in a non-public school. So that's why I'm saying accreditation is not an issue once you get past high school. Okay, high school transcripts. These are important. These are your records. I've got another recording on record keeping elsewhere where I talk a little bit about it. But the things that you want on your high school transcript are a list of subjects studied by grade level, like 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. You can do by subjects. Your transcripts could be organized by subject, like all the English together, all the science together, that kind of. You can do a transcript either of those two ways. I'm not going to go into all the details because you can Google that elsewhere and decide how you want to do that. Or if you're in a church school, they're going to do your transcript for you. So, but a high school transcript should include a list of subjects studied, the Carnegie unit assignments for each subject, and that's the time spent in the subject. Now, if you use a textbook that says this is a 1-credit course, then that's 1 credit toward graduation. You might have a half-credit course like health or Alabama history or driver's ed. All of those are 1/2 credit courses. But the Carnegie unit assignment is, if you're making it up on your own, then it's hours. And I would suggest that you would spend 120 to 160 hours in that subject to get 1 Carnegie unit credit for high school graduation. High school transcript should also include an assignment of level of quality. That's a grade, an A, a B, a C, D, or E, and F. Anyway, but also you need a GPA. And if you don't know how to calculate a GPA, you Google that as well, or ask somebody who's already graduated somebody how to do that. A high school transcript should include results of all standardized testing and a graduation date. That is very important. After your child graduates, make sure that there is a graduation date on their transcript, and it should be on their diploma too. Same date on diploma as on their transcript. Now, I'm going to talk about a resume right now, because I think it's important that you be thinking about your child's resume even now when they're maybe in 9th or 10th grade. I'll be honest with you, I think my oldest child was in the 11th grade when I started doing their transcripts, and I had to go back and think about what they did. I had their records, and so I could go back and look at what we had done every school year, and then I completed their their resume. The resume included their educational opportunities, like high school and college, and anything else they had done educationally, like I think a 2-week camp, a summit student leadership camp they had done. I included any club memberships that they had, any vocational experiences they had, and this could be both paid and unpaid. They could be doing work like maybe for somebody in an internship and not be getting paid, but it still works, so you can count it. Volunteer experiences, and homeschoolers volunteer everywhere. You've got church, summer camps, civic responsibilities, any place where they volunteer, keep up with that. And then any specialized experiences they have, like sports or fine arts or any special skill that they might have, and references. And I would try to keep a resume on 1 page. Don't make it 2 or 3 pages. People aren't going to read it. So what I did with my kids is I had a Word document, and every year I added to their resume. And then when they graduated from college, I finalized it and I sent it to them, and they were in charge of their resume after that. So, but you got to start somewhere, and you might need to be the one that does that. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is skills that are needed for life and for college. Not everybody goes to college, but everybody usually ends up being an adult with a job or marriage or children or some further education. One of the things that is big now, if you read about it, is soft skills. I didn't know about this till probably, the last 10 years. I'm like, what are soft skills? Soft skills are what everybody should know how to do, but maybe they don't. So I'm not even going to talk about that, because there's a lot of information out there online, and you can go look at it yourself, but it's important things. So Google soft skills and see if your children need to learn a little bit more about that. They also need to learn computer skills. Even if they don't go to college, they need to know, in their jobs, they're going to be doing computer work. Of course, they may already know more than you do anyway. So I'm just saying, make sure that they have a basic working knowledge of computer skills, which is Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Publisher, any of those things. Or if you've got a Mac, do it on the Mac. So, but these are just things like they need to be able to produce a document off of a computer that they've typed. So they do need to have some keyboarding skills. It's not typing anymore, it's keyboarding skills. So make sure that you've introduced that to them and they have some proficiency in that. An ability to function away from their parents for an extended period of time. You may not think about this, Um, but your children need to know how to do things on their own. You're not always going to be around. And what kind of things do they need how to do? Laundry, mending, grocery shopping, car repair. Can they change a tire on the side of the road? Or do they at least know that there's a manual in the glove compartment that they can look at when they break down on the side of the road? The other thing is health issues, because when they grow up and go away, do they know? Are they on your insurance? Do they know which doctors to go to if they have to do something with your insurance? You sort of need to let them know that. They need to know how to function away from you. And ability to seek out help when needed. A lot of children think or don't know how to find help when they need it. And this could be any kind of help I'm talking about. But if they're sick, if they're depressed, if they're anxious, if they're in a quandary and have no idea where to go, and maybe they don't want to come back to you. I don't know why that might be, but they need to know how to find help. Now, let's face it, the internet, you can find help anywhere, but you need to find the good help. So you have to develop some discernment in terms of the help you find. But they do need to be able to reach out and find help on their own. Then, I think it's important. I'm a Christian, and we raised our children Christians. It was important that when they left home, the beliefs, the convictions, and the moral standards that they had from us belonged to them. That we had done a good job of passing along our beliefs, that they weren't just ours, they were theirs. I remember our oldest child actually came to us when he was getting ready to leave, and he said, just want to let you know that even though you taught me these things, that I believe them now. They're not just your beliefs, they're my beliefs. He was probably the only one that actually verbalized that, but the others are living that way, so we know that they made that, they converted somewhere along the way where it became their beliefs and not just ours. Now, if they're going to college, there's other skills that they need to have, and that's like reading. You're going to have to do a lot of reading in college. You're going to have to do a lot of writing in college. So make sure that they have those skills and along the way. Producing quality written communication. And they may have to do this in a job. They may have to write on a job and not even going to college. Just paragraphs. Writing up a report for something that happens on the job is a very common experience. In college, they're going to have study skills, know how to take notes. So, projects that require independent work. Are they able to follow a semester syllabus kind of thing? Are they going to be able to interact with others in a class or on campus? And are they thinking critically about things? Do they just take what is told them as truth, or do they have a standard of truth that they can evaluate that by and say, maybe that's not right? And that's not just in what they hear, but it's also in what they experience on TV or in music or in theater or college classrooms, or just out in a restaurant at night with their friends, because they're going to have people that may think differently than they do. So they need to know how to evaluate truth critically. So there's probably a lot more, but that'll get you started on skills that they need in adult life and college. I'm going to talk a little bit about graduation requirements right now, because this is something that homeschoolers can do on their own. We don't have to adhere to the Alabama State graduation requirements. If you are part of a church school, your church school may have graduation requirements. If you're using the private school option to legally homeschool, you can decide your own graduation requirements. I alluded to this earlier, but if your child wants to re-enter the public school at any point before they graduate, you need to make sure that you have followed those graduation requirements, or else you're going to be severely behind if you go back in. There is a link on the handout to the Alabama State graduation requirements. So I hope you downloaded that handout, and if you want to know what the Alabama State graduation requirements, you can follow that link. One of the things that I'm going to talk about now is special needs homeschooling. Because if you have a child who's in high school and has special needs, then you need to be an expert in what your child needs, how to teach them, what they need to cover. Your child may have limitations that will prohibit him or her from completing graduation requirements in high school. And so then you need to consider alternatives. Your child may not get a diploma. Homeschooling is all about individualizing education for the child and for what he or she needs to do as an adult. You want to equip him with knowledge, skills, and attitudes to be a successful adult, however God has created her to be. Homeschooling offers flexibility so you can give your special needs child a truly individualized education plan. Learning disabled, medically sensitive, or attention deficit. Whatever the diagnosis, homeschooling often proves to be the answer. So there's no one-size-fits-all to how to homeschool a special needs child. This is where you really do need to ask the Lord for wisdom. James 1:5 said, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all men and women willingly and without reproach. So ask for wisdom with your special needs child. If I can help you anyway, feel free to call me or email me at Homeschool Alabama. So the last thing I'm going to talk about, this on the handout, is to document your high school for the future. Your student will probably need a transcript and a diploma for future reference. So keep the original transcript somewhere. If you're with a church school, your church school is going to have the original transcript. Make sure you keep a copy, not just a physical copy, but you might want to store a digital copy somewhere in case of fire or moves or other natural disasters. So keep up with your diploma in the same way. Some employers seem to want to see a diploma as opposed to a transcript. So if you've lost your diploma, you're going to have to use a transcript. So, and then recently, employers have been asking homeschool graduates as adults, were you legally homeschooled in your state? So we are encouraging our homeschool graduates now to keep a copy of that original church school enrollment form, private school enrollment form, whatever the document that you registered with your local Board of Education, make sure you keep a copy of it, as well as give one to the local Board of Education. So that's a quick overview. There is a lot more that could be said about homeschooling through high school, but if I talked a lot longer, you probably wouldn't listen. So I'm going to stop with that. And I appreciate you stopping by Homeschool Alabama to see this. And if we can help you in any way, we have our email and phone number elsewhere on this website. So thank you.